Hello guys and welcome back. Today we got a big video in store for the first couple weeks of the NHL season. We're going to be going through every single NHL team and ranking their best player so far. Now you might be thinking it's too early for a video like this, but that's kind of what made it fun. Going through every team and the performances up to this point, there are some pretty big surprises. So who's been the best player for your favorite NHL team and who have been the most surprising players up to this point? Well, make sure you watch till the end for all of the hockey talk and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year, presented by BetUS. If you're a hockey fan, trust me, you're gonna want to be subscribed with all the hockey rankings, prospect talk, trade rumor content coming up in the future. Now I hit the random NHL team generator, so this list is not in any order whatsoever, and today it actually started with the Buffalo Sabres. So we're going to start out with a team that has not had the most perfect start, but I think they have played better than their record does indicate. And one player for Buffalo that's been making sure the result isn't quite as disastrous is Devon Levi, the first goaltender on this list of quite a few, but I think Levi has been critical to the Sabres team so far. I thought he was going to have a pretty good jump after a so-so start to his NHL career last season, and he was somebody that always had potential, dominating in the NCAA and working his way up to North American hockey. You can see how well he was able to do in the AHL last season, and to start out this year, he's been pretty critical to the Sabres, getting a .919 save percentage and getting that big first win versus a great team in the Florida Panthers. It is a short sample size, of course, but Levi has been huge for the Sabres so far, and I think will be huge. The goaltending is going to be a massive factor for the Sabres if they want to turn around this season, and Levi looks to be getting a lot of the confidence here going forward. Next up, we're going to go on to another Atlantic team here in the Ottawa Senators, another team fighting for a playoff spot with Buffalo this season. They're an interesting one because Tim Stützle's gone off to a great offensive start, but to me, the best overall player so far has been Jake Sanderson, who just continues to improve and improve every single season, and you can see at 22 years old, he's somebody that is entering the start of his eliteness at the NHL level. You can see last year he got 38 points in 79 games, just took a bigger jump offensively, especially in the goal scoring department, and so far this year he's a point per game. In 3 games is 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points, but it's also been the defensive play. Even in that horrible LA game, to me he was by far one of their most important and impactful defensive players, but just season wide he just continues to improve in his offense, continues to improve in his confidence, and that has really allowed the production to pop off the page so far. It's a big year coming up here for Sandy, and he's starting off really well. Now, the next team in store is actually the St. Louis Blues here, and we're going to go on to another defenseman. This one obviously is a pretty big surprise to me, but I love to see it just for the offer sheet madness. The best player, I think, for the Blues so far has quietly been Philip Broberg. Now, me giving Philip Broberg credit, I know it's pretty incredible, but he has played well for St. Louis. I mean, I can't deny just how good and effective his simple game has been so far. He's kind of scaled it back a little bit, but I think for the Blues, he's been one of the most impactful players. You can see in 4 games, he has 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points already. I don't think Broberg is doing anything exceptionally, but I think he's settled into an NHL role quite well, and I think that's what I wanted to see out of him because the tools there are excellent still, the skating and what he's able to do with his body. There's a lot to work off there, and it feels like the Blues are finally getting the most of the potential of Broberg that's kind of always been there. Next up, going on to the Colorado Avalanche, I would have loved to Galaxy brain this pick, but still Nathan MacKinnon has been their best player. There's been a couple of moments defensively where it's been a little bit weird, especially on defending the rush, but still offensively he's been doing what he's been doing. In 3 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. The Avs have not started out very well though, and really the entire team is disappointing besides maybe MacKinnon and Middlestat, I would say, but MacKinnon is still at the top. If we're talking about best player, not no surprising player, MacKinnon has to be here still. Next up, we're going to go on to the Boston Bruins and their best player up to this point. This one I don't think is even an ironic take or anything. I think this is genuinely the truth. I think the best Boston Bruin player so far has been Mark Kastelik, which is surprising basically everybody on this earth. I think even Kastelik is surprised that he's been the best Bruins player. He's like, what's going on? How am I the best player on this team? Come on, guys. But genuinely, he's been brilliant. In 4 games, he has 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Really, that entire 4th line for the Bruins has been incredible. And Cole Kopke and John Beecher and Kastelik as well. He has been, I think, the best mix of offense and physicality. And there's a few other options you could have gone for. Lohrei is up there, Pastrnak is up there. But in terms of impact so far, I mean, Kastelik has been the best when the Bruins have been inconsistent. Kastelik has been there as a pretty consistent piece. days, which I don't know what world we're living in, but I guess this is the world now. Now, we have a lot more teams to get to, including the Philadelphia Flyers next up, but first I want to talk about today's sponsor, BetUS. With the NHL season underway, now is the best time to get started, and there's so many options here. You can go for the Stanley Cup winners, you can go through regular season point totals. They still have them as well right now for the over and unders. Right now, Calgary getting off to a pretty good lead. They're at 85.5 right now, so we'll see if they get over that, for instance. You can also go for the division races, the conference races, but you can also make picks on every NHL game as they come, and right now, there's Buffalo, Pittsburgh. I think this game is going to be a roller coaster, but the Sabres are ultimately going to end up winning it. Just going to put $5 down to win 14 and see what happens. I mean, betting on the Sabres is a risky business, but hey, that's what I've been doing this season so far, so we're going to continue that. And make sure you guys use code YouTube150 when you sign up, and thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into the best player business here. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Flyers. There are a couple options, I would say, but most obviously is Matvei Michkov. He's somebody that has just been so good for the Flyers so far. You can see in 3 games, 2 goals, and that 2 goals versus Edmonton in that first period, just brilliant, and an assist for 3 points overall. I want you guys to take a look at the 5-on-5 stats here for the Flyers. In terms of expected goals for per 60 minutes, Matvei Michkov easily leads the Flyers with a 3.97 rate, almost a full goal ahead of Owen Tippett at 3.09. Jet Luchenko also doing pretty well to start out his season, but Michkov has been on a different level offensively, and thankfully, we're starting to see the production to back it up. Also, to everybody that never watched Matvei Michkov play and said that he would never sacrifice himself or he was this soft player, here he is blocking a Mattias Ekholm drive from the blue line. I mean, he's getting right in the position to make it happen too. What a stud. Now we're going to move next up on to the LA Kings best player. This isn't really much of a competition to me. Anze Kopitar, who always seems to start out seasons like a god, continues to do that. With Kopitar, he's already off to a great offensive start this year. In 3 games, has 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. I mean, he has been a leader, a driver consistently for this LA team. But these starts, man, I mean, having Kopitar on your fantasy team every October is a blessing, and Kopitar just continues to produce. The next team here on the list is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and their best player, it isn't Austin Matthews. Sorry for the spoiler if you were thinking that. The best player so far, I think, has to be Anthony Stolarz. There isn't a ton of options for the Leafs, but I think Stolarz has been the best. In 2 games, he has a 154 goals against average, a 940 save percentage. With Woll and his weird injury and health issues right now, Stolarz has come into the net here for the Leafs and has been incredibly valuable, and that is something the Leafs have needed. Right now, he's sitting 10th in goals saved above expected, and it looks to be the starter here for the Leafs going forward. I don't know if I would have expected that. I thought he would have been a good backup, but on this level, that's pretty awesome to see. Next up, we're going to go on to another Atlantic Division team here in the Florida Panthers, the Stanley Cup champions, and kind of a surprise to see, maybe not so much to start out the season, but just if he continues the production, would be Sam Reinhart. To me, he has been the best Florida Panther, scoring shorthanded goals, looking brilliant doing it. You can see in his first 5 games for the Panthers, he has 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points. He has been absolutely elite, and really riding off of just how good he was last year onto this season. I thought we'd see a little bit of a dip in his production, at least goal scoring wise, but so far Reinhart says no to declines. And especially with him getting that back as well from the Panthers, it's great to see him get off to a great start and another hopefully great season ahead of him here. Now on to the Washington Capitals. This was a bit of a hard one to pick. I was kind of debating John Carlson, but there's been a couple of weird defensive moments here and there. To me, the most consistent player still has been Dylan Strome. Just like he was last year, Strome has been such a valuable piece of this Capitals offense, really making it all go. He's stirring the drink right now. They've only played 2 games, so it's a short sample size, sure. But Strome in those 2 games has a goal, 2 assists, 3 points, has been consistent offensively, a consistent leader, somebody that is always trying to generate offense. Ever since he's really come onto Washington, he has been such an impactful top 6 center and absolutely one of the most underrated in the league. Now on to the San Jose Sharks and their best players so far. I mean, if you were to give it to Macklin Celebrini, I would not doubt you, honestly, but there's a couple of good options as well outside of that. Mackenzie Blackwood had a brilliant game versus the Stars. He was stealing and robbing us from a bigger defeat in that game, but I think Tyler Toffoli has been the best overall player in all of the games that they've played so far. He's been brilliant. In his first 3 games for the Sharks, he has 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, already taking accountability for a bad power play for San Jose. He is a natural born leader, already is that for the Sharks. Sharks, and they badly needed somebody with his type of presence there to guide those younger players. Already having an effect on Celebrini and some of those all younger guys too, but Toffoli has been a great signing so far, and I think will continue to be for the Sharks. Next up, we're going to go on to the surprising 4-0-0 Calgary Flames. They have been amazing to start out this season, and there's a lot of options here. You could go for a Zari, a Huberdeau, even a Dustin Wolf. I think I could see that. I mean, he had a great last game, but I think Rasmus Andersson has been the key piece to this Flames team so far. And just the overall presence, man, in 4 games, he has 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, a +7. He has just been so good, about as good as you could be to start out this season. And we'll see whether Calgary actually ends up trading him or not. That is something to keep an eye on. If they do, though, he is on track to get a massive haul with this type of performance and is on pace to have easily his best season. And I hope he does, because their potential in Andersson with his puck moving ability has always been there. Now we go on to the Utah Hockey Club next up. They're another team that has a lot of options. You could go for Gunther, you could go for Sergachev or Dursey. There's a lot of options there on the defense, but I think Clayton Keller has been the valuable player, the most important player for this Utah Arizona franchise for so long, and continues to be. I mean, he is on track to have a brilliant season. In 4 games, already has 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. He's somebody I think is going to have an MVP-like season, and the start to it so far for Utah has been brilliant, and I hope Keller is able to continue it because he is an absolute rock star. Next up, we're going to move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins and their best player so far. This one I love to see so much, and it's Evgeny Malkin. I mean, Malkin has been so good to start out the year for this Penguins roster, who has had some up and down performances thus far, but at 38 years old, man, it's insane just how good he continues to be. He's somebody that did have a little bit of a drop off in his production last year, but you can see in 4 games this season is off to a roaring start playmaking wise. 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points. He's been easily the most consistent Penguin up to this point, and they've badly needed it. It's going to take a lot for this Penguins team to be up to a playoff standard, but I think Malkin has been matching that intensity, and it's something that Pittsburgh is going to need to have translate to the rest of the season, that's for sure. Next up, let's go on to the Edmonton Oilers, and it would be the easy choice to say McDavid, but I don't think he's been the best player. There's been a few moments defensively this year already where I don't know what he's doing, to say the least. I think, honestly, the most consistent Oiler so far has been Jeff Skinner? The most consistency? Jeff Skinner? I'm as surprised as you are, but to start out this season, Jeff Skinner has been at that level. He isn't a point per game or anything, but in 4 games, he has a goal, 2 assists, or 3 points, and I think in Skinner's case, the offense hasn't been unbelievable or anything, but he's been coming up in some big moments for this Oilers team, and even though the record hasn't shown it so far, I think Skinner has been pretty instrumental to the offense of this Oilers roster, and he is somebody that will need to continue to click because their offense has been in a weird spot. Skinner, though, has been one of the bright spots. Now let's go on to the Minnesota Wild, and I would love to pick a Kaprizov or a Rossi because I love those guys, but let's be honest, nobody is on Philip Gustafsson's level in terms of impact for this Minnesota roster. Not only has he had a great start in 3 games, he has a 1.66 goals against average, a 948 save percentage, he also scored a goalie goal, and even if he had like a 900 save percentage and he scored a goalie goal, you'd automatically be first place to me, but Gustafsson has also backed that up with pretty great goaltending, and it's about as perfect of a start as you can get for Gustafsson to start out the year, and that's great because with the struggles he had last season, we didn't really know what his future was going to look like for Minnesota, but if Gustafsson plays up to this level for the rest of the year, Minnesota could be a playoff team, and that would be crazy to see. Next up, we're going to go on to the New Jersey Devils, moving back to the Eastern Conference here. They're a team that has a lot of options. They've been great to start up this season, but to me, honestly, the most impactful has been Jonathan Kovacevic, who has been such a good pickup from free agency. I loved him as a depth move, but he has been more than just depth for this New Jersey roster. He's been playing big minutes and has offensively been great for them. In 6 games, has a goal, 3 assists, 4 points, but defensively has been even better than he had been before in Montreal. I thought his numbers were pretty good. He had some great moments there for the Habs, but for the Devils, he is playing a lot of minutes. He's playing big minutes against big competition, and he is succeeding with it, which with how many injuries New Jersey's had with their defense to start out the year, he has been incredibly important for them, and it's great to see. Now on to the Detroit Red Wings, a team that's kind of hard to pick because they haven't had much success up to this point. Cam Talbot, I think, is an option, but I'm going to go for Lucas Raymond. In terms of the eye test, in terms of what I see Raymond doing, he's still at the level that he was last season, which compared to a lot of the other Detroit forwards is a far cry. But you can see so far, a point per game, getting 3 assists, 3 points in 3 games thus far. But to me, he's been creating the most offense out of anybody on the Detroit roster, trying the most things, being the most creative, and it's something that Detroit has desperately needed. They've kind of felt like they have their feet in the mud right now, and Raymond is one of those players that could get them out of it. Now on to the Vancouver Canucks, and my oh my, I have been so impressed, so just starstruck by how good Connor Garland has been to start out this season. To me, he has been the best Canucks player. Quinn Hughes, I think, is up there as well, but Garland, in terms of the forward group, has been just so good thus far. In 3 games, he has 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, but this is the most intensity we see out of Garland, which already Garland is an incredibly intense player. He is somebody that is able to grind, able to work, and he has been at his best level doing that to start out this season for the Canucks. And they're a team that also hasn't had the most success up to this point, especially in some of those offensive players like Elias Pettersson, for example. Garland, though, has been setting the example, and it's an example that a lot of other Canucks forwards need to meet. Now we're going to go on through the stretch of Pacific Division teams. Next up is the Anaheim Ducks here, and I got to go with Lucas Dostal. Now, we haven't seen much of Anaheim. They've only played 2 games, but in the 1 game that Dostal played, I think he was 30 for 30 in saves, got the shutout. Hard to really argue with that. Now on to the Seattle Kraken and their best player so far. They've had a little bit of a weird season to start out thus far, but I think the best player has been Jerry McCann up to this point. He's somebody I think Seattle needed to have a rebound season, and so far he has. You can see what he was able to do in 2023, getting 40 goals, 70 points in 79 games. Took a little bit of a step back, at least in the goal scoring department, but so far this year, he's back to a good level. In 4 games, his 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. But I think also the overall game has been taking some good steps forward. He's been good in transition, good on that and the opportunistic scoring, and Seattle always needs that. McCann is a valuable piece of that offense, though, and so far, he's been one of the few consistent players consistently going. Next up, we're going to go on to the Vegas Golden Knights, who have had some incredible offensive performances to start out the season. But to me, the best player so far has been Jack Eichel, who I believe was 3rd star for the NHL this last week. In Eichel's case, though, it was pretty easily deserved. In 4 games so far, he has 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Eichel has always been a top center in this league. He continues to prove that every single year, but this year looks to start some great offensive production. I really hope that this year we see Eichel get around that 82 game mark for Vegas for the first time. You can see his high was 67 games played back in 2023. Hopefully this year we see him healthy throughout, and if that does happen, the offense is sure to come. Now on to another team starting off pretty well so far in the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're a team that has had some good performances thus far, but to me, maybe the most important has been Andrei Vasilevskiy getting back to a great level. It's kind of interesting to see with Vasilevskiy kind of the slow decline in his save percentages. You can see since 2021, he went from a 925 to a 916 to a 915, and then last year, a 900, and was about league average in goal save above expected. Really curious for Vasilevskiy that we saw that type of decline out of him. But this year, so far, he's been brilliant. In 2 games, has a 1 goals against average, a 958 save percentage. Obviously, incredibly short sample size, but if Vasilevskiy is back, Tampa's a playoff team, simply put. Now going on to another team with Tampa that's going to be fighting for those Eastern Conference spots in the New York Islanders. Their best player, you could have a bunch of different choices, and I would understand it. I mean, Barzal, Dobson, Duclair has been great for the Islanders so far, but to me, Brock Nelson just continues to be one of the Islanders' best players through and through, consistently every single season. You can see just the goal scoring and how good it's been over the past 3 seasons. 37 goals, 36 goals, 34 goals. This year to start out, he's been wondrous. I mean, in 3 games, he has 2 goals, an assist, 3 points. One of those goals was absolutely beautiful, by the way. And I think in Nelson's case, he's always going to be in the mix, always going to be in the thick of it. Still at 33 years old, looking as good as new, and you love to see that. He has just been so good for the Islanders, and in the contract year, too, this guy's about to get paid. Next up, we're going to go on to the Carolina Hurricanes, another team that doesn't really have much of a sample size up to this point, but I'm going to go for Pyotr Kochetkov, who I think has been the best up to this point. He's only played 1 game, but he has a 2 goals against average, 920 save percentage. Carolina hasn't been that great so far. I have limited options. Just give me a break here. Okay, now going on to the New York Rangers. This one is pretty easy to me. Igor Shesterkin has been great to start out the season, but Artemi Panarin is easily the choice for me. You can see so far in 3 games, he has 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points, has been a playmaking god so far to start the year, but who's surprised? I mean, after last season, just how dominant he was again, getting a 920 points total. I mean, he was just so insane, so good offensively. The goal scoring as well, taking a big jump. Everything about it was incredible. But Panarin, it seems to be translating that onto this season, which is good news for this Rangers offense. He's about to turn 33 years old too, man. I mean, it's unfair how well Artemi Panarin is aged, but he continues to do what he does best. Now we go into the Columbus Blue Jackets and a player I am so happy to be wrong about so far, and that is Sean Monahan. To me, he has been the best Blue Jacket up to this point, and gosh darn it, do it for Johnny Sean. He has been doing it for him so far. In 3 games, you can see he has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. That amazing goal against Florida as well in that home opener for Columbus. I mean, everything about that was just magical, and I hope he continues to have a magical season for the Blue Jackets and do it for Johnny Gaudreau, because my goodness, Monahan has gone through so much, and he deserves that right now. Now we're going to move on here to my favorite team here, the Dallas Stars, and actually the first of a string of goaltenders here. We're going to go into Jake Oettinger. Now, I was tempted to put maybe a Mason Marchment because he has been incredible so far, but Oettinger is the obvious choice and really the correct choice up to this point. He's already played 3 games, but you can see a 163 goals against average, a 942 save percentage, and the goals above expected also backed that up pretty well. I think he's up to like a 5.7 if I believe, and that's just incredible. And a 3-game sample size, that's almost as good as you can get. But Ottinger's made up for a lot of some of the blemishes in that Stars defense so far, but coming up in a big way. He's coming for that Vezina trophy, man, and I love to see it. Now we go on to the Montreal Canadiens, another team that I kind of debated going for a skater. I kind of debated maybe a Caden Gooley perhaps, but Sam Montembeault is still the choice. Didn't really have the greatest game versus Pittsburgh, but nobody really did on that Montreal roster. He has been making up for just a really bad start defensively. Their expected goals against has just been awful to start out the season. You can see in 3 games, he's a 2.03 goals against average, a 942 save percentage. He has been brilliant to start of the season. Again, carrying the Montreal Canadiens to wins they might not have had otherwise. That is the Montembeault brand. And the fact that he allowed 5 goals in that Pittsburgh game and still has a 942 save percentage on the season, I think he'll be all right. Now we're going to go into another Canadian team here, another top goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuyck is as well the easy choice. Mark Scheifele's gotten off to a pretty good start, but Hellebuyck continues to be the most valuable piece for this Jets roster. You can see after a great Vezina Trophy winning season last year, he's gotten off to an even better start. A 0.66 goals against average, a 976 save percentage. Hellebuyck has been world class so far, but who's surprised? It's Connor Hellebuyck. He's one of the best goalies in the league. And of course, American stud as a goalie. That's not surprising. But now for the last team of the night here with the Chicago Blackhawks. They've had a couple of pretty good performances up to this point. But to me, the most consistent player has been Teuvo Teravainen, who has been a great free agent addition for the Blackhawks this year and has been critical in quite a few areas so far, being good on the overall game and quite well offensively. You can see in 4 games, he has 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points with his former team, and I love to see that. Right now, we've seen Chicago insulate their top 6 with a lot more veteran presences, a lot more consistency, and Teravainen was a big part of that offseason, and he's a big part of why Chicago's been okay to start out the season. But those are my picks for the best players on every single NHL team, and I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and comment down below. What do you guys agree, what do you guys disagree with, and who would be the best player on your favorite team so far? Let me know your thoughts down below, and of course, make sure you share it with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Click on this card right here for all my ranking content in one playlist, and thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you, of course, to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. If you guys did enjoy, we'll hopefully see you guys in future videos. Make sure you stay here on the channel, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.